Being chair is very demanding.
Being chair is a bigger job than I thought it would be.
It is, after all, a voluntary role.
I wouldn't want to do it without a mentor.
Both Jane Strong, a new chair of governors, and Jill Maddox, an experienced chair, are benefiting from mentoring support. How do these two different mentoring relationships work in practice, and how effective are they proving to be? Jane Strong has been chair of governors at Henry Gotch Primary School in Kettering for 18 months.
When I became chair of governors, it was unexpected, as the previous chair had to resign for very good reason. So I felt like I'd been sort of maybe thrown in at the deep end a bit. There was a new head teacher and I was the new chair of governors. So at our first meeting, I was quite nervous about the future.
Shortly after Jane became chair, the school was placed in notice to improve. Jane joined a local authority task group where she met Les Smith from Governor Services, who has become her informal mentor.
I've been a chair of governors at a secondary school now for 7 or 8 years. Prior to that, I've been a governor for nearly 20 years.
Afternoon, Les.
Hello, Jane. How are you?
Fine, thank
Nice
you.
to
Are
see
you?
Again?
Okay, do you want to come and sign in?
Yes, sure.
It was actually Les who suggested that I perhaps could have a mentor, and they sort of said, well, actually, I'm at Governor Services, you ring me.
She obviously needed additional help, and I felt, because I'd been a chair for 7 years, that it was not easy, but easier for me to be able to put myself in her place and to be able to say, okay, these are the sort of things that you can do. It is purely an informal and unpaid basis.
The first thing I needed to know was how to chair a meeting, how to move the discussion along, how to make sure everybody had their say. Did I need to speak a lot? What was I supposed to know? I hadn't had any training at all other than being part of a meeting that had been chaired.
If you're suddenly faced with having to chair a meeting and you have no professional experience in another organisation, then it is sometimes quite daunting. The spotlight is on you. Everybody's looking at you, everybody's expecting you to lead.
Les just sort of put things into perspective for me and sort of said, no, you don't need to talk about every subject, just pass to the person who knows about it. And he also did say to me actually once, just maybe you should feed back a summary of what's been said, and then you know that you've understood it.
If there were any issues that were slightly contentious, then she would bring me, or perhaps we would meet, and we would talk through those particular issues, try to put it in a perspective of what was the governor's responsibility, how should governors respond to it, and try and keep them on track so they didn't go off at a tangent.
Les doesn't attend governing body meetings, though it's something he's offered to do. Jane does, however, run through the meeting agendas with him.
The election tonight is the first thing on the agenda.
Oh yes, because it's the start of the new year, isn't it? Yeah.
I was wondering, because there's some new governors and Anne is the new head teacher, is it okay if I do the welcome?
Yeah, then you hand it over to the clerk to carry out the election of the chair. One of the questions that often gets asked is, should the chair leave the room during the course of the election? I guess it's probably best to offer that, and during that time the clerk would look after would be running the meeting. And I take it you are standing.
I am standing, yes.
Oh, right, that's it. One of the things I tried to help Jane with is to make sure that she doesn't end up doing everything within the governing body. So we've talked about the issue of delegation and about involving other governors.
We talked about the community governor vacancies.
Yes, we did, didn't we?
Yeah,
yes.
And you suggested that I should ask somebody to help out with writing that letter.
Yeah.
I did. And one of the governors took the parent governor election letter away with them.
Okay.
And
yeah.
they have come up with this. And I just wondered if you would mind having a quick look at that. The fact that Les has been a chair of governors is very useful. He has a lot of knowledge there, and I also think you look to somebody who isn't necessarily going to tell you everything, but is going to listen and is going to sort of help you to make your own judgments and decisions. I was wondering about the committees. I've been attending all the committee meetings and wondered, do I actually need to do that?
You can't do everything yourself, so you have to be prepared to give responsibility to the chairman of these committees and maybe you could get together a group of, what we call the chair of chairs committees.
Oh, right, yeah. There is no set pattern to when and how often Les and I get in contact with each other. It is literally as and when.
We're almost at the point where Jane probably would not require my help or mentoring assistance at all from now onwards.
I think I'm more confident now. I feel less fazed by chairing meetings. I feel I'm more prepared. The first thing we need to do is to elect the chair and the vice chair. Obviously I can't do that, and I think I need to leave while you do that bit, okay?
At the governing body meeting, Jane is unanimously elected as chair for another year.
Thank you. I'm sure it's not too much to say, but I'm not sure I would still be the chair of governors if I didn't have Les to call upon when necessary.
Across the country, Jill Maddox is the experienced chair of governors at Sambourne Primary School in Warminster.
I've been a governor at Sambourne Primary for nearly 20 years now, since we moved to Warminster, and I've been a chair 3 times.
18 months ago, the school was put into notice to improve following an Ofsted inspection, and the local authority allocated a governor consultant, Keith Clover, to work with Jill and the governing body.
My governance background is that I've been a school governor for over 10 years, and I've chaired each of the committees and chaired individual governing bodies.
The relationship between Keith and Jill, unlike that between Les and Jane, is a formal arrangement.
Keith and I meet probably, on average, it's once before every full governing body meeting. We do email each other and we do have telephone conversations.
I think that Jill's problems were the fact that she had a very clear idea of where she felt the governing body should be heading. And I think that the governing body's difficulty was accepting that there needed to be significant change. And I think that between the two of us and the governing body, we've recognised that. So how are you? How are things going at the school?
Yes, we've had a good start to the term.
Mm-hmm. Good.
All the staff are back and had a good break.
A major change that Keith and Jill have worked on together is the way the committees are structured.
When I became involved with the school, there were 5 or 6 different committees, which was putting a lot of pressure on certainly the head teacher and the senior management team to attend committees, and also to Jill in her role. I work very closely with a lot of schools who use a 2-1-1 committee basis.
This is a rationalised committee structure with 2 subcommittees and a strategic management group, as well as the full governing body.
Keith was able to explain at the full governing body meetings how it worked in practice because he had experience of that himself. He'd also seen it at other governing bodies. I found that to be really supportive because it wasn't just me with an idea trying to encourage the governors.
Part of my role is to bring ideas in, to offer suggestions, but never to say to the school, this is the way you do it.
I felt it was important that our governors made the final decision so that they have ownership of their structure.
I think the atmosphere at the last full governing body meeting was very positive. So I think they are up for the change, they're looking forward to it and are going to meet it in a constructive way. So.
With the new committee structure starting this term, Keith and Jill are discussing how it will be evaluated.
Yes, I've said to the full governors that we will evaluate the new system at the end of the academic year.
Right.
So that would be useful to have some pointers about how we can actually monitor that progress.
I think probably one of our next meetings we need to devise some form of a questionnaire for that committee.
And that will then build up over the year.
I think that'll give us some really good evidence of how it's working, and it would also give the senior leadership team within the school an opportunity to say how they feel that the structure's going.
Unlike Les, Keith does attend governing body meetings.
I always sit on full governing bodies to support the chair, and it depends on the needs of the school whether I attend their finance committee or their curriculum committee.
Being a governor on a governing body is a very isolated role. Keith has that breadth of experience of other governing bodies as well as his own.
Another area that we probably need to make sure that we monitor and keep a good eye on is the subject governor monitoring. So how's that going?
Before Keith arrived, the governors had decided that monitoring needed reviewing.
We had various systems in place, link governors, governor of the month, and for various reasons we didn't think it was being effective.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Vinny. Stay there.
This Year 5 science class is being observed by the link governor.
It's that identification of the difference between monitoring what they're doing and evaluating the impact. So we worked very hard on raising the awareness of subject governors as to what their role was.
We keep a critical eye on what the teacher gets across to the children, if they keep in with the curriculum, if the children are enjoying what they're doing, if they're learning.
We've decided as a governing body that we are going to keep link governors for mostly the core subjects and have governors linked to certain areas of the self-evaluation form, which is obviously a key driver for Ofsted and the school. I'm involved in monitoring the leadership and management section of the CEF.
What it has done is brought the governors closer to the work of the CEF, and I think now what happens is monitoring is more meaningful. We firmed up on the core subjects and now we can start to include some of the other subjects for the governors to monitor.
Yes, and that might be a discussion for the full governors, because if we jump too far too soon, it might be best to embed what we've got. Because I think
Keith has played a key role in helping Jill to implement change.
I think the governors now will be working more effectively. We have a school development plan, we have a self-evaluation planner. He's given us sort of confidence in ourselves that yes, you know, we do know what we're doing, we needed to review it and move forward.
The school is now out of notice to improve, so it's time to plan Keith's exit strategy.
More than likely my exit strategy would be that by the end of term 3 I was not in attendance at all committee meetings, and that there was continued support for yourself and hopefully the vice chair who will be in place by then. I think the benefits to Jill from my role is having her own critical friend, and it's very difficult when you are the school's critical friend and all the challenges that brings, not to have somebody that you can maybe ask advice from.
Mentoring is a form of support which can play a valuable role. The National Governors Association is encouraging local authorities and local governors associations to set up mentoring schemes.
I've been able to share ideas that I might have had myself and sort of test them out on him.
I think that to offer chairs a mentor countrywide or nationwide would be a very good model to take forward.
I think having a mentor can increase your confidence, give you that support, bring ideas and that wealth of experience.
If new chairs of governors were offered a mentor, I think probably 9 times out of 10 they would go for it.
There are mentoring roles as far as head teachers are concerned, and those are much more formal. I suspect it could be over a period of time that the chair's mentoring will become more of a formal arrangement as well.